Hello everybody, this is Pat Dennis with Youreka, and today I'm going to do a quick video to show you an example of uh, some more advanced things that we can do utilizing the Youreka application. And I haven't really figured out what we're going to call this series yet, but I'm assuming there's going to be several more videos like this. So I'm just, for now, calling it Youreka Labs. But stay tuned, perhaps that will change. I'm not really sure yet. But today what I want to talk about is um, this idea of creating forms inside of Salesforce that users need to fill out and using some of the native functionality related to actions, Salesforce Flow, and even we're going to touch on just slightly some Aura components. If you're not a coder, don't worry, I'm not either. But it's pretty simple stuff that we're going to do today, and it can be really powerful. So let's jump right into it real quick. For those of you that are not familiar with what we do, Youreka is a Salesforce-native forms application. We're available on the Salesforce App Exchange, and what we allow users to be able to do is to fill out complicated forms, assessments, checklists, surveys, all on the Salesforce platform without ever leaving the Salesforce environment. We have quite a good and useful mobile application that allows people to take checklists offline while they're in the field. But today we're actually going to talk about purely on the Salesforce desktop and filling out forms right inside of the Salesforce environment. So, and by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that everything that you're going to see today in terms of the Youreka form is completely drag and drop. So Youreka's forms that we create, we build them all inside of Salesforce. And it's all in a drag and drop interface. And then these forms can be made available to whatever user groups we need them to be available to. So let's talk about the use case today. The example I'm going to go through today is, let's say that we are a Service Cloud user and we need the ability to be able to complete a form or a set of forms and make those forms related to the case object. So maybe a customer calls in and right off the bat, as soon as this case is created, I need to be able to fill out a bit of a checklist or a form that will maybe guide my talk track, that maybe will serve as documentation for my engagement with this customer. Whatever it is, there's a whole variety of potential reasons depending on your organization or the industry that we're in. But we need to be able to quickly fill out a form while we're looking at a case. And it's not just a single form. It could be several forms, or maybe we need to be able to pick from a menu of forms that we need to fill out right while we're on the case. We're going to be using Service Console, although today you could use, what I'm about to show you doesn't have to be in Service Console, but that's what I'm going to demo from today. We need these forms to be related to a case. We're going to use a little bit of Flow, but we're going to be utilizing Youreka's forms because these forms need to be their own records. They need to exist inside of Salesforce as their own separate record, but related to the case. And we need to do this in as few clicks as possible. So that's the challenge that's in front of us. To go through this demo, I'm going to show you what it's like. We're going to start on the case. We're going to click on a quick action that'll launch a flow. The flow will allow a user to pick a template, and that template's been made available to us by our system administrator or by our Youreka template builder user, power user. And from within that flow, it's going to create a form record. It's going to automatically associate that form record to the case. And then, most importantly, it'll let the user just fill out the form right there inside of Salesforce. We're going to complete the form in our desktop window, and then we'll jump back to the case and see what happened. So that's what we're going to go through today. Let me flip over to my demo environment here, and we'll see what's up. So here we are inside of Service Cloud. And I've got a case in front of me. I got a customer that either has emailed this case in, or submitted this in a customer community, or maybe we've created this one manually from a phone call that we received to our call center. Doesn't really matter, but how the case is here now, and we need to quickly fill out a form on this case. So what we can do is we can launch Youreka in so many different ways, you guys. Like, we could create a button that would generate a new form. We could utilize Youreka's Lightning components, which we can show. Maybe there's a link I can add here that will show what those look like. But in this case, I'm going to use Flow. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to click on Feed right here. And we've got a little flow that we can launch, this little tiny button I've got here called New Case Form. What this is going to do is it's going to launch a flow, a screen flow inside of Salesforce. And from here, we could do a couple of things. Like I've got a lookup component inside this flow that's going to go find our form template records. So I could search here and we could say like maybe we want to look for the order tracking case form. So I could pick that there because maybe as an agent, I know that that's the form that I'm looking for. Or if we wanted to give a list of the different forms that are in our environment to our users right here, and then they could pick, we could do that too. So maybe we want to click on the order tracking case form here. These would be, these are mutually exclusive. You wouldn't want to have both, but just a couple of different options for creating that user experience. And then from here, we can click next, and we are immediately taken, the flow's done, created a form record, and in console, I'm taken over into this new form for me to fill out. And what I can do from here, you can see it's already pre-populated with case data. So I've got the subject of the case in here, and maybe we'll just like edit this really quick so I can kind of show you that Youreka will update the fields. So we'll remove that from the subject, and that'll update the subject when that time comes. And then maybe we can, we could pick from these different reasons. This could get mapped back to the case too. And then finally, maybe we'll just fill out some answers here. So we could say maybe the product is for our dryer. Maybe we're an appliance company, so we have all of our products here. That opened up a new set of questions here. So maybe as we're talking to the customer, we could say, when are they expecting to receive the order? They were expecting it last Friday, and they can't track where their order is. Maybe we could see if they have a tracking number. If they do, what is the tracking number? They could speak it into the phone, and we could type it in here, and then we could even give them some helpful instructions like, make sure that you read back the tracking number to the customer after they provide it to you. But maybe this needs to happen for the handling of this case, right? So we fill this whole thing out, and then what we can do is we can click submit. This will push this will update the form inside of Salesforce, and then it's just going to take us right back to the case. So the page will just kind of reload here really quick. And then what we can see is that Youreka has actually updated the case subject here. So any of the fields inside of the form that we wanted to map to the case, we could do that. I think we also updated the case reason here. And then also we can go to our related information here. And this would be where our related list is for the form. So if we filled out like 3 or 4 forms for this particular case, those would all stack up right here, and we could jump in and actually review those. And all the answers to every single question are right here inside. If we refresh the tab here, all the answers to these different questions that were filled out by our agent just a moment ago are right here. So this is a way that we can just easily fill out forms right on the case and then have them related to that case, all while giving the user a menu of forms that they could select from. So it can be really helpful in that way. We can give people some options. Now, how did we do this? Let's jump into the underlying kind of technology here, and I'll show you how we made this work. As a bit of a teaser, we are using Youreka's technology, so our forms are totally a part of this, as you can see, but also we're using many other things on the Salesforce platform to kind of make this happen. So we're using a quick action, we're using Salesforce Flow, and I'm even using a Lightning component as well to kind of give that user experience exactly what we were hoping for. So the first thing is, let's jump into this feed here. So you can see we got this new case form. What's going on here is this is just a screen flow that I created. So for those of you that are familiar with Flow, or for those of you that are not familiar with Flow, Flow is a way of us managing all types of different automation inside the system, as well as provide simple screens here where people can do inputs. What this flow looks like on the back end is it's really simple. As we kind of take a look in here, the first thing that I've got going is we've got this little screen that allows me to do a quick lookup or pick from a template, or pick from a set of records. So in this case, maybe I just pick from the actual radio buttons here, or we could utilize that lookup to be able to kind of like go find that form template and then proceed with the flow. But so that's what's going on in the screen. And then after the user picks their template, what we do is we actually create the record. So this is us just basically saying, what form template is this new form going to be? So we can define that based on our selection on the screen. And then also we can associate the new form record with the case that we were jumping from in this case. And we could also make it associated with the account, with the contact, with the asset. So this form could actually map data to all kinds of different places. But the user doesn't have to manage that. They can just launch the flow, and then the form record will be created and associated with all these different records. Now, that was flow, and so that's what's running here on the case. But the last thing here is actually a little Aura component that I added here. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not somebody who knows how to code, at least at this point in my knowledge of the platform. But there are so many resources out there, a lot of open source kind of offerings, and so I won't claim credit for this one. But what we're trying to do here is, when we create that form record, we need to get there. Like, we want to send the user to the form record in a separate tab in console so that they can actually fill it out. It wouldn't do any good if we created the record, but then we stayed right on the case, right? We want people to be able to fill it out. So this little component here is actually a way to navigate a user to a different page in Salesforce. And so honestly, like, if you were to ask me before doing any of the homework for this demo, I wouldn't understand what any of this meant. But a website that I really enjoy going to is called Unofficial Salesforce. They have all kinds of different open source, just unmanaged packages that you can install that can support things like Flow and whatnot. So I can add a link to their offering here. It's really cool stuff. Point is that they offer a bit of components that you can build inside of your dev console. And so what I did is just pulled their package in. It's real easy. And then as soon as you add it here to the dev console, it's then made available to you inside of Flow. And what we're doing here is we're basically just saying, you know what, when we create a record in Flow, take the user to that record as soon as we're done, and let them edit it. So that's what this action is doing. Again, if you're comfortable with Aura components, super interesting stuff here. If you're not comfortable with Aura components, you can more or less ignore everything I said for the last minute and a half. Point is, it's pretty simple to set up. But that's how we're doing it here inside of Flow. And the end result, again, is that users can jump on their case into that little flow. They can find their the form that they need to fill out, and then they can click next, and immediately they're just taken into a new tab, and they can start filling out a form. So it's that easy. There's obviously so many other things that we can do with this, right? Like, we could create many form records. We could create more automation in the system, maybe send alerts as a result of this form being completed, things of that nature. So totally, a lot more that we could be doing for this, but for the sake of the demo today, we'll call it there. If you guys have questions about what you just saw, you can feel free to reach out to us at Youreka.io. If you have access to the Org62 chatter groups, you can visit us there. You can certainly feel free to reach out and learn more on our YouTube channel. We've got many more videos like this on YouTube. So hopefully what you saw today was interesting, and hopefully we hear from you soon, perhaps with any questions or comments related to what you've seen today. So thanks a lot.